They come from the past and the future.
There is nothing wrong with your radio.
Listen.
With the single most important interview since God talked to Moses.
The voices you are hearing are the voices from Krypton.
This is Ed Gross, and like the lady said, you're listening to Voices from Krypton. If I'd written the first two X-Men films in Watchmen, I'd be walking around like the king of Hollywood, thinking I had clout up to here. But David Hayter, the guy who actually did write those films, tells me that ain't the case. At all. Proof of the statement comes in the fact that it took him 7 years to raise the financing for his directorial debut, Wolves, which has just been released on Blu-ray and DVD. Before we started talking specifically about Wolves, I asked David what it was that made him feel he was ready to sit in the director's chair.
You know, I think anybody that works consistently in this business has an unreasoning driving ego that tells them they can do anything, and I don't think I'm any exception to that. I also, when I got the opportunity to work on the first X-Men movie, you know, that was my very big break, and it was at that point when I realized I could potentially parlay this into becoming a director, which had never seemed a possibility before. And so what I did was, you know, I spent a lot of time talking to Bryan Singer and Ang Lee and Paul Greengrass and these amazing directors I've been able to work with, and really tried to get into what it meant to them to make a film and how they go about it, and to study movies intensely. You know, I never went to film school, so I sat down and I watched directors' commentaries, and I watched making of movies, and I read countless books and tried to prepare myself, you know, taught myself about cinematography and editing and color and camera movement, and you know, all those things, in an attempt to be as prepared as I possibly could be when the time came around.
Of course, feeling prepared is one thing, but choosing the right project is a whole other challenge. What was it about Wolves that convinced him it was right for him?
Well, you know, it's funny. You work in the entertainment industry for years and years, and you have so many different projects you're attached to, and this one. You know, some producer friends of mine came to me with a werewolf property that I wasn't big on, but I thought I could probably do something with this particular creature and genre, and so I started to think about it, and I came back to them and I said, well, you know, what about this? And you know, they liked it, and off we went. On a 7-year journey to put together the money and make the film. But as far as, you know, why this one versus another one, this one just happened to be the first one that they gave me, you know, $15 million to make it. So that seemed preferable to me to the ones that were unfunded.
In Wolves, and I quote from the official description, popular high school student Caden Richards wakes from a horrific nightmare only to realize that he's living it. He is changing into something vicious, unpredictable, and wild. Forced to hit the road after the brutal murders of his parents, Caden tries to hunt down the truth of what he is. Spoilers, he's a werewolf. There have been a lot of werewolf films over the years, and for David, the subject matter brings with it a number of appeals and challenges.
Yeah, no, it definitely appeals to me. It's just a very tricky creature to pull off. You know, it's not like vampires are easy. You can put a bunch of powder makeup on a good-looking person and slap some teeth on them, and there you are. You know, the werewolf, I think the story, the legend of it is woven into our DNA, and it really speaks to something at our baser levels. But filmically, it's very difficult to execute. So I feel like there are great stories within that, you know, still to come out of that creature and out of that lore. And I tried to look at it in a very different way from the way it's been executed over the past, you know, 60, 70 years or so. It's always been a monster movie creature, meaning, you know, John Landis had this great quote about American Werewolf in London, which is the greatest werewolf film of all time. Yeah. And he said, my story is about a kid who gets cancer, but his cancer is killing everyone else, which I thought was such a beautifully phrased description of that classic tale of, you know, you get bit, you get changed, you start killing innocent people. But if that's your story, it's got an inherently depressing ending. You know, you can't, your lead character can't be killing innocent people and not go unpunished for that. Right. And what I tried to do was create more of a hero's journey, to take a lot of the lessons we learned while putting together the X-Men movies and say, what if this was a power that scared you, sure, and that changed you and frightened you, but that you were ultimately able to get control of? What if you could execute this, become this creature whenever you needed it on your side? Wouldn't that be a cooler way to go about it? And isn't that something that we haven't really seen before, with the exception of possibly the Michael J. Fox Teen Wolf?
So in essence, this particular chapter in werewolf mythology has been approached more like a superhero film than traditional horror.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I mean, that was very intentional. That's sort of the thing that I'm known for, and it was having played a hand in creating this current wave of superhero mania, I thought, there's an area we could explore that hasn't really been explored too deeply before. So, yeah, it was very much that. I mean, we really talked a lot about Spider-Man and Peter Parker's journey, and,
right?
But in a way, it's darker than that, because it's a darker creature, and you're dealing with more elemental and vicious attributes to the creature than you are with, say, Spider-Man or Superman. But in the end, yeah, it all comes back to that idea of great power and great control.
Not surprisingly, David is ready to continue down the directorial path and searching for his next project.
Yeah, I just absolutely loved it, and it's such a different experience from just writing a script and handing it off to other people. It's so much more satisfying, and it's the adventure that I really wanted to engage in when I first got into this business. I loved the cameras and the sets, the makeup and the actors and the crew. It's just such an amazing adventure the whole way through. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. I'm dying for the chance to do it again.
Remember, Wolves is now available on Blu-ray and DVD. And don't forget to check out the latest news and interviews over at our home base at voicesfromkrypton.net.
The Voices from Krypton.